I could remember that there was this particular December where we started. My wife had joined me in the business that started progressing very well because she has to resign from the bank. We sold everything within our space and took the money abroad to buy goods. As the goods were returning from Lagos, everything got burnt on the road and the shop was empty. So we cried, did all sort of things and prayed and picked it up from nothing. And we started over again, and the whole thing became a success story. But, in 2022, just shortly after COVID, we've been able to do so much. And we're only thinking of going to the next level when tragedy struck again. And we had an inferno that consumed everything that was actually in one of our mega showroom, and we lost almost 1 billion that ago.
What?
The fire consumed everything.
A billion naira?
Yeah, overnight.
Walk me through that day. Walk me through how did you emotionally deal with that?
Yeah, it was very difficult, I must tell you. It was very difficult because I remember that the first thing I did was to drive to an hospital and told them to sedate me so that I could be off. I just don't want to be available or alive to as at that particular period. But one of the elements of success is failing. And, you just have to continue failing to succeed. And in every failure, there is an element of success. So if you key into that, from every falling, there is an opportunity of rising again. And rising better.
Build houses, some build businesses, and very few build legacies. Today, I've got a man that has done all three of them simultaneously, and he's just getting started. I have architect Ayodeji Ogedengbe, and he isn't just an architect, he's a visionary who has left his footprint in the sand of Nigerian infrastructural and agricultural landscape. From academic excellence to phenomenal government project to shaping how Nigerians view housing, he's creating stunning spaces and on a relentless ambition to giving Nigeria the most remarkable housing changes that they desire. But let's be real, not all success stories are smooth. And success in itself is a long list of struggles. It's a story, what we're about to hear, of resilience, of persistence, and undeniable transformation. Today, I want us to talk about the sleepless nights, the consistency that you have to put in if you're to build the business that is sellable, that is bankable, and that is certain for growth. I have with me architect Ayodeji Ogedengbe. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am in awe of you. I'm in awe of what you have become and the projects that you have. Phenomenal.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir. Yeah. To start our conversation, I'd like you to talk to me about yourself. And in this context, I want you to not talk about your academical pursuits and not talk about your qualifications or your awards, nothing. At the core of you, in fact, from childhood, what were you like? How did you grow to be the enigma of consistency and resilience that you are today?
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate this privilege. My name is Architect Ayodeji Ogedengbe. Of course, I want to say before I start on this journey, I appreciate God for how far He has brought me. Of course, it has been a journey of resilience, journey of a lot of hard work, journey of grace, because as a little boy, I grew up in a very remote village, so to say. From a very humble background. And of course, the power of grace has actually caused a turnaround. But beyond that, there are quite a number of factors that makes what a man becomes. And one of the factors is that the power of parenting is also very, very key. when you look at the development of any child. So I give kudos to my parents for imparting godliness, knowledge, and all the traits of well-being in me. So while I was growing up, I remember that in Jesus 3 particularly, or before then, I used to, in our little village, I used to draw in front of the old house. I mean, with my bare hands. And I had passion for drawing. And the whole community knew that I could draw very well. So when I got to Jesus 3, my father took me to an art studio, wanted me to be an artist. Having spotted that talent in me. And over time, so fast track to being in higher institution. Unfortunately for me, when I wanted to study arts, I stumbled into someone that actually educated me. Unfortunately, I said because I was given animal science in school rather than architecture. But the power of resilience, the power of focus and determination actually got me transferred to the right department of architecture.
Interesting.
So I graduated the best of my class. It wasn't by talent, it was by effort, hard work, and resilience. Because getting to school, I saw that talent was not just enough, that you need to put in a lot of hard work to get the right results. So by and large, it's been a story of hard work, a story of commitment, a story of focus. Knowing fully well that, number one of my drive is that determination to turn around the story of my family, rewrite the narrative of our history, that of course I can change things. And by the grace of God, one has been able to actually do that for so long. And one has been able to make an impact on the society. So graduating from school, of course, one of the things that was I could remember, let me give you this story. I could remember that while in school, someone told my dad that this is more like a misplacement for me to be studying architecture because I was from a very humble background. And my father called me and said, they said he's the son of the rich people, or children of the rich people that studies architecture. And I said, well, as for me, we had to change the story. But what that prompted in me was that desire, that passion to be better than my mates, because I felt that if I would be better than them, I could offer them services beyond what they can offer. So, and that prompted me to give it all the effort that it requires while in school. And, wanting to just learn everything, wanting to know everything beyond what the perimeters of the university can teach me. And before I know it, I was actually doing better than most of them. And even while in school, I was actually employing my classmates because I'd become an hustlerpreneur.
What business were you doing when you were in school?
When I was in school, I was actually doing banner making cards. In fact, then Riabonke banners was my job. I was the one that was getting it in the whole of Benin. I was doing it for I was doing banners for quite a number of fellowships in school, and I was making greeting cards and all sorts for individuals who wants to have birthdays and all sorts. And, from the school, I was able to create a business. And from that, I could actually take care of myself while in school. And luckily for me, when I graduated, I had scholarship for master's degree, and I had a master's degree in architecture too from the State University. And graduating, I had to face the reality of life. That, of course, there's nobody there to help. It is only between me and God. And all the knowledge I've acquired stood me out, coupled with the grace of God. And that's actually turned around my story and had bettered my situation. It wasn't a very smooth journey, but I could remember that when I chose to do interior designs with architecture, it was one of the best decisions of my life. And why did I say that? Was because I was just looking out for that thing that would make me better than my classmates, that would make me stand out in the midst of the multitude. That, okay, beyond architecture, what else can I do? And that was what interior brought to me. So when I left school during my service year, I learned furniture making from a very local shop. I took it up to other levels. And when I met my partner, to my wife, the first thing I asked her was if she's ready to become an entrepreneur, though she wanted to be a banker. But I told her, for us to partner in this journey and to move together, you have to be an entrepreneur, because my mother will always tell me that Ishe Omo Alashe Je Owo Omo Alashe La is very deep. The meaning Yoruba is that if you work, you only have little to eat. But if you actually do business, the sky is the limit. So learning from the intricacies of little trades that my mother was also doing, I saw prospects in trading. That took me to the level of running the business of architecture. Of course, for me, I was able to coin a style for myself way back, and I started early enough. I mean, my art deco started 15 years ago. I mean, before I was, of course, immediately before I turned 30. And the company that grew from nothing, of course, if I had to go to that story, is very interesting because I remember that the way we started was that a friend of mine his dad wanted to have some window blinds done in their hotel. And that was our first contract ever. So I never had any money invested in my business to start up. So we started really from nothing. Also, the currency we had then was just network. So we had that network currency through using my friends and also. So that was how we started, from a very small building. And today we've been able to build a conglomerate. Glory be to God. But along the line,
I'd like for you to blow your trumpet a little.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll get there. But, along the line, there have been so many challenges. I had to work with so many organizations because, like I told you, there was nobody to help. It was just between me and God. And I've told you my background. So I joined so many organizations. And from there, I could find a niche for myself that, okay, I wanted to just be an entrepreneur. I was this person who could not just be tied down to something. I wanted to do so many things. I had so many people I felt, if I see people are jobless, I was always worried that no, they can make out something for themselves. They can do something for themselves. So I knew that I was born to be an entrepreneur. I was born to lead. Beyond basic architecture, I knew that there were more to give. I knew that I was calling out to resolve problems, to create solutions in the interior space and architecture space. And beyond that, we've been able to also resolve other problems. So fast track to doing business. So we started humbly, like I said, but over time, opportunities started coming and challenges started growing. And one of the challenges was that I could remember that there was this particular December where we started. My wife had joined me in the business that started progressing very well because she has to resign from the bank. And we sold everything within our space and took the money abroad to buy goods. And as the goods were returning from Lagos, everything got burnt on the road and the shop was empty. So we cried, did all sort of things and prayed and picked it up from nothing. And we started over again and the whole thing became a success story.
Okay.
That was the first challenge that we had to conquer.
Okay, wait, hold on. Yeah. You shipped in some materials from
like then maybe about 20-30 feet container.
Okay.
So
how much would this amount to financially?
As at then, I mean, way back in 2007, 2008, that was about 9-10 million naira then.
Okay. Yeah. That's a lot of money.
As at then, that was a lot of money. And we lost the vehicle, we lost everything that was contained. And
how did you get back from that?
Of course, one of the elements of success is failing. And, you just have to continue failing to succeed. And in every failure, there is an element of success. So if you key into that, from every falling, there is an opportunity of rising again and rising better. And that was what we actually stood upon and believed in God. And I tell you, it was so magical for us, the way we had a turnaround. Within that year, we were able to buy a bigger size of that vehicle. I remember that we were able to consolidate our trading process and expanded more within the same year. So it's been good all the way. But then for every grace, there is also a challenge. You have to always consolidate on that space that God has given you. And the element of that hard work has to be there. God will only bless that we should place on the table.
Definitely.
God doesn't bless emptiness. So God will fulfill that wish. I say this because I believe so much in the power of God. I'm a Christian and also. So apart from that, we also have quite some challenges.
Can you tell me more? You just said that was just the first one.
Yeah. So along the line of our business, so we started expanding after then. So that was almost like snowballing us into another level of success when that happened.
Good.
Because after that, we started capitalizing, we started expanding, and we're doing very well at the time. Of course, as an architect, I've been able to do so much in the space of architectural designs, interior. So because most of the time we do design, build, and furnish. Capitally, within the southwestern Nigeria, we have made an impact. I mean, if you talk about our brand anywhere, most people don't even know my face, but they know the brand. So, but, in 2022, just shortly after COVID, we've been able to do so much. And we're only thinking of going to the next level when tragedy struck again, and we had an inferno that consumed everything that was actually in one of our mega showroom, and we lost almost 1 billion at a go. Overnight, the fire consumed everything.
A billion naira.
Yeah, overnight.
Walk me through that day. Walk me through how did you emotionally deal with that?
Yeah, it was very difficult, I must tell you. It was very difficult because I remember that the first thing I did was to drive to an hospital and told them to sedate me so that I could be off. I just don't want to be available or alive to as at that particular period. But when I woke up after 3 days or so, I saw that the reality was still there. It wasn't a dream. So that I had to face it. And so I sought God's face and I summoned courage. Of course, like I said, for every fall, there is an opportunity to rise again. And to rise to success. So I picked up my loins and worked together with the team, encouraged everybody to, renew our momentum and see if we can go again and again. And I just believe that for every good intention, there is a God that always signs things off. That when he sees your heart and he sees that readiness, there is no success that doesn't have a space of God in it. Especially when he sees your power of resilience, he sees your energy, he sees your commitment. And, for a business to grow, we must actually define why are we in business? What are the intentions? And these things are very key. Because if your intention in business is all about making money, then I tell you sometimes most of these challenges cannot be conquered. And so one thing that worked for us was that, I saw love about the time that this thing happened amongst our staff now. And, thank God no life was lost this time around. And thank God it was all about properties and also. But I saw love, I saw readiness in the team, I saw passion. I saw that they were fully behind me. I saw that they were trying to draw energy from me. They wanted to see if I'll be shaking. So it was a trial of our stand, a trial of our belief, and a trial of our power of resilience. And I think God saw it too. And he turned things around for us. Beautifully, it's actually a very memorable day in our life. We always remember it. But I remember that when I woke up, I was trying to tap myself if I was dreaming for the past 3 days. Because even when I was sedated, I was hearing everything from afar. I was hearing that, okay, this has gone, that has gone, government is doing this and that. So we sought for human support. And there was nothing forthcoming. So when I saw that nobody, in fact, unfortunately, the insurance on that building has just elapsed. And so there was nothing to fall back upon. But as God will have it, with that team spirit and one other thing that is very important, it has actually changed my thought process of whom a leader should be. What kind of leaders are you? Are you the type of leaders that carry your teams along? Are you loved by your people? Do they appreciate the intent and purposes of doing business? Of course, from day one, I've been able to define why was I in business. And one of the reasons for being in business is to make impact, is to change stories. Whether, of course, starting from my family story to the stories of everybody that is around me. And so, the kind of support we drew from our team was also an additional strength for me. And about that time, something shifted.
Tell me.
And that was the turnaround again. Sometimes I was asking God, why do you have to bring some of these insurmountable challenges, yes, for us to have this shift to the next level? And when it happened, I saw things from another perspective. After it has dawned on me that this has happened, I knew that I needed a shift in my space, a shift in the business, a shift in my trust process. I saw that there was something that was lacking majorly, that, you need to build that power of mentorship, and you need to build a stronger network. So what I started doing then was started looking for various opportunities to actually create network for myself. So I joined so many companies, knowledge industries, those who were offering knowledge and also. So until I met LIMBsimple, and that was the greatest shift that happened. So what happened was that, so we started learning to do things differently. And we started learning to change the thought process of our team and redefining our purposes. Why were we in business? What were we trying to achieve? What was the major drive towards ensuring that, so I saw that, okay, fine, man must be built for a purpose. So beyond living to make money, because at the time, I think before that incident, I was becoming very complacent. When you were making some little kobo, and you felt
I've made
money
it.
has come. So ordinarily, that event made me know that I need to change my room, that the room has to change, because when you felt you had money and it was all gone. So now you need to know that, okay, things have to start changing. So I started looking at the possibility of changing my friends, looking for the possibility of changing my network, and
entering new rooms,
and creating new opportunities for my team. So it dawned on me that a lot of people were relying on me, and I needed to keep the team, especially the place that got born. People need to keep their job. They were not the one that bought it. So I had to just keep them. So along the line, so I met LIMBsimple, and the story changed. So what happened was that, within the 90 days, there was, I was just being curious online, and I was looking for, things you look for, start looking for you online.
Yeah, the algorithm follows you.
Yeah. So I stumbled on him speaking, Coach Ezekiel, and I felt like, I like this guy, young guy doing great things. Okay, let me reach to him. So I saw the program, I wrote for it. And, so before the convention, I saw that I've actually been converted, because I've actually gotten value before the main convention that happened. That's what's it called?
The LIMBsimple Strategic Convention.
That's 2024 convention.
Yes, sir.
So the 3 months was actually a turnaround. It was as if everything was talking about me creating structures, ensuring that you have data management, documentation,
operational
excellence, etiquette, building a very reliable and formidable team, building a sustainable business, and so many other topics that were actually, so those things were actually talking to me, and I took it very, very, very seriously. So along the line, I saw that things started changing within my team. I'll tell you one of the things that changed.
Dude.
One of them was that, we're now customer centric. We're now focusing more on the interest of our customers. Beyond the products, we're now selling value. We wanted to ensure that for everyone that visited our brand, there's an experience that is gotten, that lingers on to cause what we call repetitive business, referral business, and testimonial business. So we saw all this value now chicken in. Another thing that also shifted was our focus on our staff. How we're dealing with them, how we're managing people, how we're also focusing our attention on their awareness, on their growth, personal growth, their mental health, and also before it used to be all about business. So, but now we now started becoming more welfare centric. We're now focusing on their growth and personal development. This actually was the turnaround, because people were now performing magic beyond what they could do. Within the 3 months, we turned around our business by almost 150% in value. And that's actually caused me to be so attached to the simple
Sorry, just to
process.
cut your story short a
Yeah.
little. So, for a little more context, the convention is a yearly event that we do in November at the Hotel and Suites, and we have about 1,000 businesses come together to get insights, information from guest speakers that would shape your mind and give you new insights on how to do business. Now, during the convention, we have a 90-day ultra good model where we help businesses with strategies weekly that they are supposed to apply to their business. And then we have a Q&A session where you have the liberty to ask as many questions as regards the strategies that you were offered, and to see if they work. And if you had any difficulties practicalizing them, you would be given practical solutions on how to make them work. Now, what is phenomenal is that architect Ayodeji last year was a participant of the 90-day program. He went through the courses like every other participant. Now, because of how much impact this had on his business and how exceptional his execution was, which is what is actually very important. Your execution of the plan is actually more important than the plan itself.
Yeah.
Now, because of his exceptional execution, his business, like he said, did 50% increment in 3 months. Now, that's not where it ends. It was so great that out of about 1,000 participants, he was on a panel section. We had a panel section
Yeah,
together,
that's true,
right?
that's true.
With 2 other businesses.
Yeah.
And from that panel section, guess what, guys? This year, Architect Ayodeji is now on the mastermind program. A lot more higher form of subscription with the LIMBsimple brand, where we pay about $15,000 for a yearly consultation.
Yeah.
Now, this year, he has now become a speaker to this year's convention participants, talking to them about how much he's been able to transform his business purely from resilience and determination and the zeal to not quit even when it became so difficult. Not only that, it's that he is right now close to hitting a lot more than he lost in business from the previous year. Now, what I'm trying to say right now before he continues with his story is that if you think that the current setback you're currently experiencing is where it ends, I tell you, if you stand up, dust your feet, put your ears in the right places, step into the right rooms, your life is about to be exceptionally beautiful. Let's continue, sir.
Yes, thank you so much. My story, I'm happy that it has actually inspired a lot of people.
It has inspired me.
Last year, when I was called out to speak, I wasn't prepared for it. I was surprised when I was called out for a panel section, and what I said was just true. That the 90 days program was more like a reorientation program, because most of us does business, but we don't understand the chain value that the business is supposed to be actually bringing out. And more so, we don't understand the structural expectation of a business. We just take business as it is. Business is not about buying and selling alone. It should be grown to being corporate. It should be solving a particular problem. It should be deving it. And apart from solving societal problem, it should solve people's problems.
The actual problem.
Yeah. So, because when you have a team of people who are working for you and they are not happy working for you, there is no value in being in business.
I actually like you to talk a lot about this, because I find that CEOs and entrepreneurs are very intentional about their pocket. They want to live the best lives.
Right.
They want to drive the fanciest cars. They want their business, their family to, fly, first class tickets in the fanciest of locations, forgetting that the people that quote unquote toil for you to make this also want a life for themselves. So how have you practically built a structure in your business that rewards your staff rightly? And how has that now translated to you having more productivity in your business?
So what really changed, like I said, was that we now had a reorientation as to our purpose for doing business. And one of the major elements is people's welfare. So when that happened, we saw that, of course, there was need to actually be conscious of their happiness, their fulfillment. Because, last year was only the year that we didn't have any staff resigning from our company. Yeah, I'm telling you. because of this kind of structures we have put in place, the kind of package we have put in place. So one of the things that we got to learn in LIMBsimple, especially listening to the Giddy stories, I felt, okay, if Giddy can do this, we can actually take an
Emulate from them.
and begin to emulate them. And what we have done over time was that, of course, over time, we've ensured that 75% of our staff are accommodated freely within our spaces, all over the places. And another thing we did was that, okay, we renewed our commission system for every sales. For every sales activity that happened within our system, whether it is in architectural services, interior and furniture business, or electronics, or any other of our business, there is a commission that goes to even 50% performance, not 100% now. And apart from that, we started looking at, because we say, if you solve people's stomach problem, all problems are solved.
Come on.
So we started looking at food bank process for them. In fact, another food bank will happen in the first week of August, where staff will just make a little contribution of a particular amount. Then we double or triple that amount to stock food for them. So we started looking at idea of giving them a free lunch. And we started looking at the health, HMOs. We started looking at so many other things, So all these things added value to them, and they saw a new direction in leadership. And so that adhered so many of our staff into believing in the vision the more, because one thing that causes people to be docile in followership is when they don't believe in the vision. And what causes belief is the reality. When they see, when you are promising a better tomorrow, and today is not showing any hope. I mean, so they see the money trickling in, little by little. They are not getting any impact or a share value in any percentage. Of course, they start feeling worn out, and they start becoming weary. And with that, people will always, they are not tied to you now, so they want to move on. So, but it has to be beyond what comes to the life of the CEO. It also has to be what kind of impact do you make in people? How do you key them into the vision by letting them have an effect of whatever is happening now? Whether positively or negatively. Let them see it.
Yes.
Let them see the reality, and let them see the hope of actually believing that if this thing gets better,
it will affect me positively.
Yeah, so that has happened to us, and that has caused a revolutionary change in our system.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm sure anyone listening, you don't even have to tell me that you have been touched. Now let's talk now about the business of business.
Okay.
You are obviously an authority when it comes to interior designs, in architectural patterns and services and all. Now, I personally feel that in Nigeria, we do a copy and paste structural designs and architectural style, especially in Lagos. If you go past Lekki, every house is white in color. Yeah. Every house is a semi-detached duplex. Every house has two parking space. The proximity between two houses is so much that you could probably even see your neighbor unclad.
Yeah.
The question now is, how do we balance that?
Yeah, it's part of the challenge in the profession of architecture, which is being addressed at the top, and we keep advocating that things should be done better. One of the challenges that we now have so many software architects who are not actually following the philosophy of designs. And most of these software architects, of course, they do copy and paste, like you said. Most of them are not licensed to practice architecture.
Oh, wow.
In a sane society, there are, procedures for practicing, and there are only about 5,000 licensed architects in Nigeria today. And so, in a sane society, most of the buildings should not have been built because they were not actually done by a licensed architect. And so when you have this kind of template running, you keep having lots of challenges. So, and most of these challenges are caused by developers who always run sharp practices, who wants to ensure they maximize their space, their cost in form of design. So they give the job to a non-chartered or non-professional architects. So firstly, or professionals, let's put it that way, the non-professionals. I think the Lagos state government is trying to do a lot in this regard, but a lot still needs to be done, especially that when all these real estate developers get the spaces, they want to cut the spaces to the most minimal sizes so that at the end of the day they have more buildings without consideration for building regulations. And there are regulations that actually has defined how buildings should be positioned, the number of buildings that are required within a space, the airspace that are required, the guidelines that are required, and also the orientational requirement of a building.
Nobody even cares anymore about
talks
trees.
And that's another major problem that is actually an effect of the climatic change that we have in our society, where nobody is talking about vegetation, nobody is talking about, everybody is deforesting, even where they are supposed to be afforestation. And, you just get to a new environment today, you see that all the trees that have been felled, and, the estate developers just want to start putting buildings. Everybody is just crazy in their line of development. And these are because the regulatory bodies are not doing what they're supposed to do. And this is a wrong signal to our future and to our sustainability. Fortunately, I'm running a PhD course in sustainable development practice. And when I see all these things, I get worried.
I actually have a degree too in like environmental impact assessment.
Okay.
And it's just really funny that the damage that we are creating right now, you can't begin to imagine it.
Yeah. We're sitting on the gunpowder, actually, because the future is really being put at stake with the level of development, the impact of man on the society. We are not conscious of these impacts. And in due time, of course, there are the signals are already there.
Right, sure.
The red flags are all over the place. You see what is happening in Bangkok. It's happening all over the world. And thank God, God has loved. Okay, because we are sitting on grace, so we feel we are overdrawing that grace. And I hope one day all these things doesn't turn around and work against
bite us.
So because, we are within our spaces, anywhere we find opportunity, we overdevelop. And there is a lot of overdevelopment.
But would you say that the issue right now is the rapid urbanization of Lagos? Or would you say it's just sheer greed?
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with rapid urbanization. China is rapidly urbanizing than Nigeria.
Right?
And you see, things are done with coordination and regulation. But in this part of the world, everybody wants to get away with their own style and greed. And as long as we have a society that runs like that, of course, we are going to be having serious problem in the future.
Talking about greed, right? Yeah. So there's this trend right now on social media where people call out developers for quote and unquote luxury apartments. Now, I, in my opinion, think that you are an authority in the question I want to ask you. First, you're an architect, and also you have one of the biggest interior design companies that I know of. And I mean production of these materials and also styling of it. I want you to tell me, right? For instance, let me give a figure. A 500 million naira apartment in, say, Ologolo on the island right now. It's designed and said to be and sold as a luxury apartment. Now, being the definition of what luxury interior design should be as an architect, right? Would you list me a couple of things that you feel would make an apartment to be classified as a luxury apartment?
Of course, what is supposed to be considered in designing or building a luxury apartment first is people's comfort. And forms should always follow functions. And where the forms are not following functions, then you begin to have just relevant projects. And so most of the projects that are built to only impress aesthetics. They just want to have an aesthetically appealing.
No functionality.
There's no functionality. So some of the spaces you enter, you see a lot of death traps all over the place in the name of, using luxury ties. You see them killing people because the ties are slippery, where they're not supposed to be slippery. So a lot has happened to people. People have gotten amputated. A lot has fallen on ties and have died. A lot of hazard has happened to people when you have different changing levels and split levels within the homes. I run a personal podcast where I address some of these problems in architecture, and a lot of developers have actually come to come after me.
Drag you.
And I say, look, you just want to make money. And until government or society rise to this occasion and starts working against all these things, people just put structures together and want to maximize spaces as much as possible. And in an attempt to do this, they are creating risk and cutting hazard in the life of people. So what a luxury house should look like is a home that is functional, a home that brings comfort. And what is comfort? Comfort and luxury, they are different things that, of course, can be harmonized, but they are apart, because what is luxurious to you might not be luxurious to me. My definition of luxury might not be yours. So luxury has been wrongly defined by having a lot of lighted buildings, lighted spaces,
Chandeliers.
having chandeliers. So you enter some of these houses, they are empty. And people will say, you will love it. I'm not trying to make jest of anybody. But the truth is, sometimes I wonder what should be loved there. Because some of these spaces are just empty and they are called luxury apartments. So the definition of, anything we do in Africa, we do it in a different form. The real estate business is becoming totally infuriated by so many quacks. Quackery is just the order of the day. Everybody is doing real estate, and that is not bringing in a lot of decorum into the industry. So the Radan has a lot of work to do in ensuring that all these things are moderated, especially from the planning process to approval, then construction process, then ensuring that building regulations are maintained. There are potential problems that are being created in our society. Most of these problems. So you see the airspace between building as being about 3 feet, 1 meter. And you wonder how people will survive.
With the heat wave currently happening.
And so you can look through you can talk to your neighbor through the windows because the buildings are so close. And without maintaining, with this heat that is being generated, I wonder how people survive in those places.
Generator
sound and all sort. The buffer zones has actually, so there is no real estate designs that gives room for buffers, vegetation, recreation, and so many other public facilities. So people just cut land into sizes and they say they are doing real estate. These are problems that are being created. And so real estate, it should be done in such a way that it brings comfort. It resolves the problem of homeliness and accommodation. It should resolve the problem of housing in our society.
The housing deficit.
Yeah, the housing deficit. And so, but what you have is not, people are just creating niche for themselves, building luxurious, so to say, houses and making a lot of money from it. So even the houses they are building, how many average Nigerians can afford
it? Talking about affordability, exactly. That's what I was just headed there. Talking about affordability, we find that as a number of people in Lagos State, and I bet say across the country right now, as a number of Nigerians increase the inflow of people into the country, we find that we almost have migrated to a populace that cannot even afford luxury living. But we are so bent on keeping up with that narrative that we are not even fulfilling the needs of the people.
Yes, that's
and it's really, really sad, because tell me why right now a 1-bedroom apartment in some parts of Lagos already go for about 2 million naira, 1.5 million naira. And when you go in there, it is nothing to write home about.
So, of course, that's why I've mentioned 2 bodies that has to be looking at things. The ACON, Architects Registration Council of Nigeria, has to be looking at regulating designs and the design approval process. Same thing has to do with the town planning association too, has to look at things. Then RIDAN as a body has to help governments in enforcing some of these things, and government too have to stand their ground. And most of these things has to do with corruption and managing all these procedures, because even the processes are there. The regulations are there, but people are fond of cutting corners and getting away with it. Yeah.
Let's talk a little about security.
Okay.
Right? When people want to rent apartments, when people want to build houses, they're thinking about a lot of other things but security. And to be fair, security is a major concern in Nigeria. My question now is, how do we adopt security focused designs in homes or offices that would help us to and I know that a couple of things that can be done is, CCTV cameras and all of that. But let's assume that a Nigerian isn't really boxed up. It doesn't really have a lot of money. But this person wants a home that is a fortress for them, a home that they can go to bed and sleep. What little design changes can they do to make their home, secure?
You see, unfortunately, we are losing values of our culture. As Africans, we have a way of life that we grew up with. But, a lot of involvement of lack of cultural process, lack of ideology has made us lose value in this climb. And one of them is that as a people, we have a style of building. I mean, style means we are our own cultural and traditional way of living, and which is mostly communal, but it has been threatened by security over time. But, as our building process and designs are evolving, westernization has actually taken away our value. So there is no divination. Africa does not, especially Nigeria, does not have an architectural divination, does not have a style, a definite style. So if you ask us in Nigeria, what is the style of, if you go to some country, of course, there have
China.
been post-modernism, there has been modernism, there has been, you see a lot of people, there is Rococo, there is Art Deco, which we took value from, and there are so many other styles that you see countries, and architects actually evolving. But in Nigeria, there is no style. There is no, we just copy anything and put it on ground without considering, not beyond security. We talk about the climate, without considering our climate, without considering, of course, security, without considering people's way of life. So as an architect, for you to design, you're supposed to be briefed. Of course. And if you are buying a house, the house has to meet your brief. What we mean by that is that it has to meet your way of life. What are the ways by which you do things? Okay, you're a private person, and so you buy a glass house that is transparent and that is unclouded, so you can be comfortable there. Okay, so you are a security conscious person, and the house is not clouded, not protected enough. And so these things that has actually, software developments and a lot of influx of styles and westernization has actually taken away our content and intent towards a style of living. And so what's the solution? The solution is to be looking inward. And so, security should be a consideration. Thank God for the advent of technology. A lot of people are maximizing that. I know and I understand. Technology has saved a lot of security process. But beyond that, a design should be intentionally designed, put together to resolve a particular line of needs, especially as it affects individual way of life and living. So, I know that for the developers, talking about real estate now, of course, they are building to sell. But particularly, there are some basic standards that are required. One of them is that people's safety and consciousness should be put in place in the course of designing and building those homes. Those are the basic requirements. What are the things that are not considered? Climatic condition. So buildings are just orientated without consideration for this direction of sun, wind effect, temperature, the soil pressure and temperature, and quite a number of erosional challenge. And so that's why you have a lot of part of Lekki being flooded. Because, see, things are not considered. People just, thank God for today's government who are trying to, and that's why demolition will continue in Nigeria.
Right, yes, because all these houses that they build,
it will not
stop.
It will continue. I can assure you to continue, because people feel they have gotten away with issues, but it will overrun them, to come to them, because nobody is ready to, because of our personal greed, want to make money and also. So if all these things are considered, of course, and that's why, of course, if you have a licensed architect who has lost is rare, because these are things that is born to the heart of an architect before he becomes licensed, that he has to consider some of these elements. Building orientation. How do you position your building? What side is the openings of building supposed to face? Some homes are not comfortable because they are facing the sunrise and the sunset. When you wake up from your bedroom, the thing that faces you is the sunrise, and when you are sleeping is the sunset. So the whole house becomes very hot because these things are not orientation.
Wow.
And site analysis are not done. And you've also mentioned environmental impact analysis. So I was actually looking at a building yesterday. I said, if I were to be a governor, I hope I become one day, I will not approve this IRA structure. Why? Because this structure is actually impacting wrongly on the lives of the neighborhood. Number one, in terms of noise, it's generating pollution to that environment. Number two, the private life of those people have been tampered with, because I could see through almost to the bedroom of the neighborhood. And so the determination of the skyline of, you should have a residential neighborhood, a commercial neighborhood, and these things should actually be followed strictly, because you have zoning for development, the CBD, the residential neighborhood, the commercial, the industrial, and all these things. So in the heart of a so-called GRA, which is supposed to be reserved for residential, now you start seeing churches, you start seeing 50-floor hotels, where people are supposed to be residing. So you have a residential building, you have 50-floor hotel next to it. So people through the window of that hotel they are looking through the houses, and people are not secured. So these are issues that has to be handled. There are too many problems.
Yeah, just too many. but I like how passionate you are, not just about business, but about the impact that your business actually makes. Now let's talk a little more about homeowners. We have dragged developers now to the fold. Let's talk about homeowners that probably cannot afford to get a developer to handle their construction and all. So house maintenance, I personally feel it's a lot more, almost as important as building the structure itself. So talk to me about how Nigerians can maintain their houses, number one. Number two, I want us to also talk about how to identify poor quality building materials. Because
I like the fact that you have addressed the issue of material, because that's the first answer to maintenance. Yeah, because for you to there are factors that has to be considered in construction. One is, of course, sustainability. Then maintainability. These are things that you don't want to build a house that will start giving you a problem. And so the advent of postmodernism has caused a lot of people challenge for people. People want to just go contemporary without recourse to the climatic condition, without recourse to so many factors. So going contemporary in some environment might not actually be the best option. So because way back in the African settings, what we grew up with is that send down the rain. Just take away water from your house as much as possible. Yes. But nowadays, with our design ideology, we are bringing in we are taking the water to the houses, and you have the roofs flooded most times. So it takes a lot of experts and intentional purpose for you to get all these things done. So for you to build a sustainable and maintainable home, firstly, you have to just consider the architectural design. The simpler, the better. They say less is more. And if you actually have this ideology, and that's why when I see minimalism, sometimes I like it. I like them, because in minimalism there is less maintenance. Because when all these things are considered, it brings you comfort. But so going to the question, how do you maintain houses? Of course, it starts from the construction procedures. Like I said, it requires you to actually be intentional about the building materials you use. Of course, for me, I've actually been an advocate of using bricks as finishes. Because in most of my properties, I see that bricks doesn't cause you to repaint over a very long period of time. So if you go to the UK, you see that most of the houses are covered with bricks. And so they are intentional about them, because these buildings don't get old. So you have buildings built in the 18th and 19th
And
century,
they're
still
still
looking new.
very much
All they do is to
beautiful.
polish the tiles and the bricks, and these things continue to shine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with this advent of lot of building materials, you have
Some people use tile on the
and
outside of their
buildings that
houses now.
corrosion is not considered. Quite a number of things are not considered. You have people paving their entire house without actually having a cause for the effect of heat and glare on their project. So you enter some houses, the cost of cooling the houses are so high because the environment is hot. The whole place are paved. No greenery, nothing. Everywhere is paved. So the driveways, nobody is paying attention to those
Little details.
nature. Yeah, nature, which has been, so things that, because of course, when you cut a land size into 300 square meters and you want to have a 5-bedroom duplex in it, what do you do? So people are aesthetic centric.
Yes.
They are
Eco-friendly.
They're being eco-friendly. So when you have eco-friendly materials and you have sustainable energy materials, I mean, what are these materials? They are most of them are very available.
Just talk to me about some of them.
Okay, let me tell you. Way back, how do we cool our waters?
Clay pots.
Clay pots.
Right?
I tell you. And because of the advent of, so who can drink from clay pots again? But the truth is that the waters is always very cool, natural, and of course, those days, because of the way they preserve their things, hygiene is also a consideration. Now we consume a lot of artificial elements that cause a lot of issues like cancers and so many things. Now we bring in a lot of glass openings that causes heat and generate a lot of disease, and also we use colors, chemical repelling things that causes a lot of hazards to us. We use a lot of materials that causes electrocution or some other challenges, too many things. So talking about building material regulation is another topic for another day. But the reality is that, so basically talking about maintenance, we should just be conscious of the buildability, the process of building, ensuring that sustainability is firstly considered. How do you do this? Use basically natural materials, create natural openings, have the right professionals to look at your building, designed. Then, so you would have resolved the challenge of orientation, then the EIA, environmental impact. You would have analyzed it. You would have actually, so I've talked about orientation. I've talked about, the effects of the wind, and also looking at the climatic condition and all this, because these are things that causes deterioration. Your exposures to some things.
Yes.
You understand? So these are things. So when all these things have been considered, then you can be sure that the lifespan of the building is increased. So maintaining now becomes easy. Okay, let me give you this instance. So I assessed the building, a very tall building. I was actually called in to actually help them assess their roof challenge. And for a building of about 16 floors, there are no manholes for top roof maintenance. So they were supposed to build a scaffold that will get to the rooftop so as to maintain the building. And so the client is asking my team to climb the rooftop and maintain and see to the problem of leakages in the roof. And I said, it's not possible. This is not safe. So what do we have to do? So we have to bore an opening through the roof, because we cannot just take that risk. So I said, is there a way for people, experts, who can climb through those scaffolds? And unfortunately, through where we could assess the roof, there are no openings. So we would have gone through the windows and all sorts. So we had to bore an opening through the roof and climb from there. So these are things that actually are supposed to be considered in the course of designs. So maintaining a building starts from the design to construction. So you would have simplified the maintenance process.
If you actually do the construction process right.
Then maintaining becomes easier.
Now let's talk about a trend that is currently happening in the architectural and real estate space in Nigeria. So the container houses.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's a trend that is here to stay? Do you think that it's a potential market for it in Nigeria? Or do you think that it's just going to pass?
Yeah, change is imminent, and change comes with innovations. And so when innovation comes, whether you try to stop it or not, it will happen. So these are one out of many innovations that's being brought on board. Of course, I quite agree that we cannot continue to run the conventional brick wall design and construction procedure. A lot of materials are being innovated and being brought on board. And one of them is the modular structures, which you have just mentioned. So it's actually going to come to stay. And the reason is because,
Would they be cheaper?
of course, over time, the workmanship becomes easier. People get to understand the fabrication process. So now it's still more expensive because there are less people who can work on them, especially as it affects fabrication and all the rest. But by the time you have more people being trained in this art of fabrication, it's not just all those containers that are line value in Apapa and all those. So, you just put them together. Overseas, a lot of things are being converted.
Do you think it's something that you're exploring as a brand?
Of course, we're already looking at it. In fact, there was this particular design that we did recently for the office for an office. Let me not mention their name. And we have been able to put up the design, and next month we are going into site to start fabrication.
Beautiful.
For most stationary buildings, people are beginning to adopt them, and they are becoming acceptable because they are easier to build, they are faster, and they are more comfortable. You can just open them, especially for small modular structures. In fact, people are beginning to innovate to raise them to high levels and stuff. So,
thank you so much for that answer. With this, to finally call this, episode to an end, I'd like you to talk to architects or interior designers that are currently struggling to maybe get clients or to scale their business. What do you think is one of the biggest maybe marketing mistakes that they are doing or operational mistakes that they are doing, and how do you think they can fix that so that they can grow their business?
Also, architecture is a ministerial job. And it's one of the profession that was firstly created by God. God is the first creator. If we are going to be taken after God, we are supposed to be creating on earth. And so the job of creation should be made comfortable and convenient for people. As architects, we should become affordable and without actually jeopardizing the value of our service. Because the impression is that architects are trained for big men, for the eyes and the mighties of society. An architect should be domestic enough to be able to cater for his local environment and the urban environment. So that's one thing. The other thing that we work more for the new generation architecture is to be more philosophical in their designs. Most of them, they learn the software of architecture and not the psychology of architecture. The philosophy of architecture is so detailed and complex, and that's what you are taught firstly in the school of architecture. And this has to do with the ideas beyond designs. What forms a design? And so when a design is brought out to be elevationally fantastic and functionally a failure, then of course you need people to just be able to interpret for that client that this your house is a failure. So immediately he realizes that he won't call you back again. Another thing is that I advocate that the school of architecture should be nursing, talking about architecture now, I'll go back to interior, should be nursing, training, or the business of architecture. So many architects are not trained to be businessmen. And so that was one of the privilege that I had coming up.
That's true.
Yeah. So I've grown up to become a business architect. And what does that mean? It means, of course, the experience your client has with you. What kind of solution? Is it all about money? Is it all about, just making something out from them? What value are you also giving them beyond money? So we advocate that architects should be people oriented as much
Possible.
as possible, so that it's not all about providing service, it's about making impact in society. So there is no way you can build relationship beyond clientele with someone that the person will not have a repeat business with you. So talking about interior too, interiors should have a language, should have a style, should be felt. Interior designs is not all about putting interior elements together. It should be about, in being intentional about comfort. People should be comfortable. The comfort of people should be the first consideration in the line of interior designs and decoration, especially in furniture making. So when you are doing interior for people, of course, it should speak their language. It should speak their expectation. It should meet the rhythm of their intention. The homes that be or offices should be comfortable enough so that people can synergize or harmonize with the environment. All these things put together will make you a successful architect. So for me, my story has been partnering with my clients, ensuring ensure that I journey with them in the line of their needs and meeting their needs to the optimum. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Architect Ayodeji. This episode of the podcast has been such an uplifting one, primarily because not only are you a man that is worth his onions, you're also a man that is passionate about what you do. You're a man that emulates resilience, that emulates hard work, that emulates consistency. And if you're watching this right now, are you actively looking to maybe mentor people anytime in the nearest future?
Course, we have initiated a lot of programs. Because if you look at my WhatsApp page most of the time, you see.
You did say you have a podcast page?
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm working on that.
Okay, great.
Yes, I have a page now, my personal page.
Okay.
People are managing it. So every week, I actually pick a topic on interiors and architecture. Would you like
us to probably add that in our description? All right, great. So what's going to happen is that we're going to write that too in our description so that you could reach out, talk to him personally or, listen to. He's obviously a man of content, a man of wisdom, and a couple of things that you would learn from him. Now, this is particularly for maybe real estate developers, architects. Look, the most important thing that you would give to your client is value, and not just generic value. Value that means value to them, that is worth their money. So maybe we could take a couple of steps back and start to actually decide what it is we are offering in the name of value. And like the architect has said right now, if you're going to give luxury, then maybe give luxury that is worth money. Now, if you found this episode insightful, valuable, then do well to share this to other people that you think would also benefit from this. Like, comment. But till we come your way the next episode, remember, the change that you want to see in your life is yours to effect, yours to dream, and yours to chase. See you in the next episode and have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Dear entrepreneurs and CEOs, did you know that 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years of conception and only a very little fraction make it to 7 figures? Are you currently struggling with scaling your business, customer attraction, customer retention? Then you are definitely not alone. What if I told you that there are proven systems that could turn your business into a revenue generating machine? With over 4,000 businesses transformed and 53 of which are already doing $1 billion in revenue annually, we do not just teach you how to do business, we teach you how to actually win in business. At the Strategy Factory, you get the exact roadmap to scale your business, build a sellable business, attract high-value customers, make strategic decisions with confidence, make the most of the business, and also unlock powerful networking opportunities. Do not let your business become yet another failed failure statistics. Success is a strategy. The question right now is, do you have the right one? If you're interested to have further conversation on the Strategy Factory with us, comment strategy in the comment section and we'll follow up with you immediately. We look forward to seeing you in the next Strategy Factory happening this month.